There is no limit on what God can do. There was a young boy who kept interrupting his father as he worked, just seeking attention. The father brought the boy in and says, "I've got a challenge for you." He took a map of the world and tore it to pieces. He gave it to his son and said, "Put it together, and when you got it together, we'll play." The father thought he had bought himself some time. A few minutes later, the son returns. The map was completely intact. The father was impressed. He said, "How could you do that so quickly?" The son said, "Dad, on the other side was a picture of a man. So I just put the man together. And I found out that once I had the man together, the world had turned out okay." And that's what this book is about, putting the man together. The Bible has 5 measures, 5 biblical standards that I found that when a man has a problem with his relationships or with his marriage or with his family, it's usually related to a biblical area of responsibility that he has neglected. The Bible says anyone who does not provide for his own, especially his immediate family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. And provision is more than a job or a paycheck. His provision makes way for not only his children, but for his children's children. Every 30 minutes, 12 teens attempt suicide. Another 220 become first-time drug users. 14 teenage girls will have abortions. And every year, 4,700 deaths are related to teen alcohol abuse. If we ever needed the watchman to guard his family, we sure do need him now. The threat to our homes are not common crooks and criminals, but the enemies of absence and apathy, because fathers are not assuming their responsibility as protectors and leaders within their home. In the Old Testament, the high priest would enter into the holiest of holies. That's the presence of God. And there he would atone for the sins of the people, and the people's sins would be forgiven. In the same way, the priest of the home, the man of God, must enter into the presence of God, interceding for his family. That way the sins are forgiven and protection of that home occurs, because the man is taking his rightful place as priest. A pattern is that by which other things are produced or made. If the pattern is flawed, then everything that is produced from that pattern will be flawed. One young boy watched as his father dressed up to go to a club one night, and the club was within walking distance. As the father left, the son recognized that everywhere that his father had stepped, his feet made an impression in the dirt. So the son began walking in those impressions. After a moment or so, the father looks back and sees his son, and he asks him, "What are you doing?" And the son says, "I'm following in your footsteps." The father realized the gravity of that statement, turned around, and went back home. Our children will not do what we say, they will do what we do. Our footsteps should leave an impression for those that are following after us. Within every home, there should be rules. Rules govern behavior. When your children learn how to follow rules within your home, it teaches them to abide by rules once they leave your home. The Bible tells us to train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I think the problem that we have so often is that we do not equip our children for that life that ultimately they will face when they will leave our homes. There are no answers that you can just readily find someplace. There's no instructions or no guide. And even so, oftentimes men are reluctant to ask for help. So I believe that this will provide for them a resource to where they can find answers to some of the questions that they have.